You've landed at the 13 Moons Women's Temple podcast with your hosts, Sam and Leela. Hello and welcome to the 13 Moons podcast. Sam and I have returned. It's not really like we went anywhere, but it's been a while in between podcasts and conversations that we've been able to capture. We usually go on these random sort of chats and go, God, why were we not recording that? And so we thought, you know what, it's time. We have to really set the vision to make these conversations more regular. We have been incredibly busy with just how much the 13 Moons Women's Temple has really taken off. What started as an idea and of a collaboration between the two of us has really been so awesomely received in the community, and we just feel so blessed every time we come together with women that this is what we do for work. And on that note, here is our latest episode for your listening pleasure.
Is one of the things that is very apparent is that there is this, we could get onto the thing of doing rather than being, in relation to how we're doing this training. So currently we've set up this 13 moon training that embodies, just like we were talking about earlier, embodies all aspects of a whole woman's year. And in that, it is a long journey of a year. It's not a very fast training, which allows women who want to become teachers or just want to work deeper in their spiritual awareness to take time to integrate the teachings that we're offering, which are a feminine offering of the teachings of Kundalini Yoga, around the different aspects of the moon, incorporating the space weather, learning how to hold rites of passage, which is so important and so deeply missing from our society, and really just giving women time to become a teacher gently, so that the unfolding is an unfolding that they can receive whilst being held in a container, which is really, really important, especially for women, because most women, when we decide to do something, whether we want to become a yoga teacher, whether we want to become a healer, if we decide that we want to do that, we generally come to this because we're lacking something in our life. We generally decide to help others because it's something that either we need ourselves or we have needed. So women are going to want to study the philosophy of helping women because they struggled as a woman, whether that was as a woman going through pregnancy, as a woman going through parenting, as a woman going through the later stages of life, through marriage. Like, there are many stages that women struggle, and there's not much help being offered, or our teenage years. So we really are in a very privileged situation where we can offer trainings that, and they're not just trainings, really, experiences that help to heal, as well as provide all the tools for women to be able to help others. Because, as I say all the time, if we were all doing this, then there would be enough of this out there. And hopefully we would be able to help many, many more women, because each of us can only do so much, because we're equally raising children, looking after our homes, trying to be good wives, etc., etc. So we actually we shouldn't be flogging ourselves trying to do everything. We need to share what we know so that we can help others to do the same. That is the much more sustainable and I think, authentic way to share the teachings of yoga.
Yeah. Well, and also to just sort of go on from what we were just talking about, I think the heart of why we're doing what we're doing is to not create more spiritual consumerism. We're not particularly wanting to create the next yoga teacher that's going to set up the new yoga studio on the corner of the block. This is a remembering of women's wisdom for your home and for your family. And if you're lucky, or if you like to have the time to be able to gather with women, you know, like you and I do, Sam, we're in our homes, we have our studios at home, and whilst in the business of raising children and holding the family, we have a couple of classes here and there where we're able to gather women together. But predominantly, if every woman was able to, in her community, remember this art form of holding space for someone else in whatever capacity that other woman needed, well, I think you said it before, the world would be healed, or we would be on a much faster trajectory to healing the world. We don't need to be going out to be doing the next latest craze of yoga, or the next fad that is, you know, whatever's coming from the Pilates world, or the next breath work, or, you know, all of these pop culture forms of spirituality, because we're just seeking we're seeking the tools that we need for ourselves, but we get caught up with that flashy, beautiful, sparkly, enticing marketing that you need this and you need this and you need to heal this and you need to, and it's just like, well, really, we just need to remember how to be the best woman that we can, and not even the best woman that we can, just we need to be able to find harmony in ourselves and in our homes. And many of us, we have to wade through a whole pile of stuff to get to that. But yeah, and I think that's really what we, you know, are kind of a cornerstone to what we teach in these trainings, is tools and techniques for you to find your way, you to find your path through your healing, so you can hold space for those immediately around you. And then if you're blessed to be able to hold space for others, then do that too, but you don't have to.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, and I think it, you know, I think this sort of concept of smaller community teachings is becoming more prevalent. I think less people are wanting these impersonal classes, and that's really, really good, actually. But yeah, I think there's so much opportunity for us when we take a commitment to a long training to experience growth that is not afforded in anything else. And we can't possibly know why we're drawn to something. We don't actually really realize until sometimes, you know, if I think back to some of the realizations that I have now of lessons that I was given during my teacher training, which I definitely did not get then. I was just not at all ready. And it's taken however, you know, 15 years to get there, which is quite interesting, you know, to actually even to just go, wow, that's what he meant. You know, which is fine. It just might just take, I mean, hopefully lots of other people are a bit quicker than I am, but it totally does. And that's the evolution of yourself and your age and all those different things. But I think as well, you know, yeah, there does come a point where it all starts to make sense. And there does come a point in life where you do things start to slot into place and you go, oh, right, okay, this. And it's those times that you see how beneficial having trainings like this can be. But ultimately, it's just, yeah, being able to share what we know with people that we think can help others. And It's how I always feel certain people that get drawn to us are people that are going to be able to share the things in the way that we share them. And that's definitely not everyone, which is why everyone doesn't have to do this stuff, and certainly wouldn't want to do stuff with us. And that's, that's absolutely fine. Because, one of my biggest things, and certainly, getting to this thing I was talking about, is I am really feeling that that the main point at the moment in our world is that there is a definite desire for many people to get off this rat race, and we for whatever reason we are not taking the hints that the universe is giving us. So all this stuff has been thrown at us. We've had all these things happen over the last, 3 years or whatever it is, and we're just going back to our old ways. People are just going back to our old ways. People are as exhausted. People are still getting sick. People are just still in the rat race. And when we were in the thick of having to stay at home, there were lots and lots of people going, oh, I'm so relieved. It's so good that we don't have to. It's so good that we're being made to stay at home. And now that, now that is over, we've just got right back into it. And I think that there's still this desperation for understanding how to stop this. And it's very challenging, because in order to stop this, we actually have to get very real. And if you are someone who is interested in learning about spirituality, you are essentially wanting to experience an awakening. You are wanting to take the path towards an enlightened way of living. And if you want that, you have to start being incredibly truthful. It doesn't come from pretending or from trying to fit in or from doing things that don't sit with that deep craving of your soul. That it just can't come. So it's only when you reach the point and you're willing to actually start saying what your soul is saying that things start to happen. And one of the things that's just I'm just becoming more and more aware of is that it's our addiction to doing rather than being. And that is just because we've been trained in that aspect. That's all we've been trained for our whole lives is, oh, what do you do? What will you be doing? Even little ones, what house chores do you have? What, that's it. It's doing. Our worth is in what we do. Our worth is not defined by who we are. And that is wrong, because we have become basically creatures of this form of habit. And as a result, we have become so far removed from the experience of being that we no longer know how to get there. I'm not sure. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we can't.
Yeah. It's a very muddy web that in and of itself is an awakening. When we were in the throes of COVID in Australia, and we were given the opportunity to stay at home. We were paid by the government to stay at home. They said, you are staying at home, and to keep the economy okay, we're going to pay you. And we all got, $700 a week or a fortnight or something like that in our bank accounts to stay at home. It was and for many of us, that freedom to be able to be in our homes for weeks was such a gift, to not have to go and do anything anymore. You didn't have to make school lunches. You didn't have to put up with your children not wanting to go to school. You didn't have to go to work. You didn't we were off the treadmill. The whole system and then globally, the whole machine just stopped. And, you know, one of my most beautiful memories is seeing images from India where you could, for the first time in some people's lifetimes, were seeing the Himalayas, because the system, the machine stopped, the pollution dropped. And there was this collective sensation of peace that, even though, well, not everywhere, because, you know, the virus was just kind of rampaging certain parts, but in Australia we were fortunate enough to kind of lock that out. But then, now that things have started to move again very, very, very fast, the system and the machine has just started. In that is this awakening that even if you want to get off, it is hard, if not, well, it's not impossible, because everyone can get off. But this is where we're at, is that if you are one of these people that are realizing, I don't want to be on this machine anymore, I want that peace and that freedom and the time and the space that I was gifted. And if you're kind of waking up to that, but I don't have that anymore because I have to work, because I have a mortgage, because I have bills, or whatever, because I have a career, because I have something I need to maintain, but something in you is saying, but we don't want this. This in itself is a massive awakening to the realization of just how hard it is to stop that machine or to get off. And it's a really profound, and it can be a very scary realization to have, that to make that choice that you do not need to be in this system to survive, to live, to be happy. Because what is actually defining you, that's keeping you in that system? Is it your attachment to the status that comes with your career? Is it the clothes? Is it the friendship circles that you think you have? Is it the car? Is it the fact that you have a massive house and a huge mortgage because that's what you thought you needed to be happy? And it is a very incredible time now that, you know, we are just catapulted right back into, get back out there. We need the jobs. You need to work. You need to keep the system running. You know, our economy, if you just look at what's happening in the financial side of the Australian economy, it is terrifying. And to realize it, we don't have the answer to solve the problem if you're going to stay on the machine, is a massive awakening and a big journey. And I think that what's so wonderful about gravitating towards what we're doing, the spaces that we're holding, is that we, or to anyone that has kind of had that awakening before, is to surround yourself with people that will help you to find yourself again. Because somewhere in this childhood, schooling years, university, career, ticking all of the boxes of the things that I'm supposed to do, we lose who it is that we really are. And a cornerstone of a spiritual awakening is realizing that you are a part of something that you perhaps did not consciously choose for yourself, but you have to consciously choose how to get out of it.
And it's ultimately realizing you don't have to do anything to have that realization. But I think we're so programmed that even when you talk about that quiet time when people were allowed to stay at home, people were still figuring out what to do, and that is just part of, you know, this attachment of achievements or doing is seen as the way that we can be worthy.
Yeah.
And it's the worthiness comes in how much you do, not in who you are. And I feel like that is one of the issues with everything, and all of us are to a certain degree caught up in that, in the performing, even before. I just think the performing of everything, the performing of yoga, the performing of meditation, the performing of how good your relationships are. Very few people are authentically sharing what is actually happening for themselves. And what I think, I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was saying that one of the things that I thought was her and my greatest gift was our truthfulness and our authenticity in how our lives actually are. Because I don't think that there is anything more humbling than to hear that someone who is, to all intensive purposes, trying to live a good life struggles with the same struggles as another being, instead of pretending and holding this facade that, oh, well, I've got it together. And this is it's a real problem we have in our technology world, because even the people saying that they haven't got it together are generally keeping it together online.
Yeah it's my mind just went in 10 million places all at the same time. There's just to kind of sort of move away from the awakening stuff. It's so important that when you want to step into, I guess, the line that you and I walk, or the way that we live life, and the honesty and the truthfulness. And if you want to be a yoga teacher, a Kundalini yoga teacher, and you want people to come to your class, or you desire that, because you have a desire to help. Ultimately, we work with women who just so desperately want to help another person. And I can't really think, of too many people that I know that are either on our trainings right now, or that, we have worked with in the past, who have taken up teaching Kundalini yoga in the way that we do, that are doing it just to make money. That I don't think we know too many people like that. We want to do, you can't, like, you actually, if you think going into teaching yoga is going to make you very, very, very wealthy, you're in such a small minority of a success group. It's just not about that. And the prosperity teachings, on the business side of it, is this: if you want to only receive from sharing spirituality, and only receive, or you're not, it just won't work out for you. The universe is not going to conspire to be, because we are here to do this in service of others. And in that is this: you have to get to the truthfulness and to the honesty of who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And in that, people are going to want to be around you, and people are going to gravitate to be in your presence. And because when they can feel safe in your honesty, then it will allow them to also start to step into a truth, or to step into honesty that they may have not been afforded before. It was so funny. I was teaching my class here on Monday night and the children's bedroom is right above where I sit, and Tia had decided that she was going to jump up and down because she didn't want to have a bath. And we're in the middle of a beautiful meditation, I think, and all of a sudden there is this bang, 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 bang on the roof. Now, I could have gone into, trying to control the room and control the situation, but really everyone was already kind of out of the experience. And the honesty was, there is a tantruming 5-year-old right above us because she doesn't want to have a bath. And everyone in the room could relate to that, rather than trying to mask the sound with louder music or pretend like it wasn't happening. Just that truthful honesty brings everyone to a state where they can actually relax a little bit more. We don't need to pretend. I think it's very, very obvious, but also something that we're not really afforded all the time, to be so authentically yourself, and the honesty of that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. And we talked about that on the weekend with the conscious pregnancy, just how doing a training, here in my home, with everything happening in my home, means that there is a difference in the level that but we have this crazy idea that we need to leave our lives in order to find our lives. And the truth is that it's much better for us to find our lives within them, to find ourselves within our life, not to leave our life to find ourselves. And I certainly spent a lot of years trying to leave my life to find myself, only to discover that the essence of home wasn't anywhere else. And so my misery at not being able to feel able to know where I belonged, or where I wanted to live, or what I wanted to do, was compounded by the searching in the external. And so it's only once you sit with that and you actually realize, yeah, that's right, it's just being where you are fully, and then allowing that to be your experience. Because I think we're just constantly trying to leave our experiences and have a different experience. And this is why practicing meditation daily helps you to be fully in whatever it is that you're experiencing. And sometimes what we experience is awesome, but we miss it because we're so busy actually in a thought process of something that we're hung up about from yesterday. And so this constant dialogue that we have about how we need to do better, be better, or achieve more, be like that person, get that next thing, is stopping us from seeing everything that is around us all the time. And we can only get there by actually, coming back to a state of being. And that's it. So it's like, how can we learn, why we don't have to, I know we talk about this often, and that's the whole point of this yoga being a householder's yoga. But I think ultimately, I've seen this, I keep really becoming aware of women that I see recently who are embodying motherhood. I'm finding it very, very powerful, mainly because I didn't when my children were young. And so I'm always in awe when I meet someone who is just so fully embracing motherhood for whatever reason. Some women, just women I wouldn't expect, are just really great mums. And it's because they're happy to be a mother. They're happy to, and this is bad language, but it's the language we've been trained with. They're happy to just be a mother. And this is a really massive thing that I was, we were talking about this weekend. But in our world, we've created we had a beautiful woman on training who's about to have a baby, and so we were talking about this, and it is incredibly hard because you become a mother and people are asking you, well, what do you do? And so you might respond and say, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mum. Then people are going to say, what did you do before that? Like, that is not, that to them is not an answer. The answer is that you must be something else. You can't just actually be embodying motherhood. And this is a huge thing for us in our world, because as a result, it's causing many, many women an amount of feelings of, I guess, inadequacy. You know, is it okay for me to just be at home? Is it okay for me to embody being a homekeeper? What if I choose not to have children? Could I still be a homekeeper? One of the things I was saying is, why not? Why, if we're willing to say that our partner is the person that we love more than anyone, and that we are willing to spend the rest of our lives with, why would we not think that it's okay to then stay at home and look after the home for them and make their experience better if they want to be the ones that go out and go to work? Why have we been given the concept that, well, that's not, that makes you a lesser person? That actually means that if you're deciding to do that as a female, you're in some way being diminished.
Yeah.
It's this whole journey of femininity, and the cycle that has brought us on is actually causing women a great deal of stress, because during our homemaking years, we are programmed, our hormones are programming us to be homemakers, to be in this nurturing space. And so we're naturally more likely to want to do that. Later on, once we hit a certain age, we're going to feel a different energy. We will want to move out and try and look at other things, because we're not receiving so much estrogen keeping us in that home. And I find it fascinating, because it's well, I can't even speak for anyone else, but personally, had I been able to fully embody just being a mother and not thinking I needed to be something else, that my life wasn't quite complete, if I'd have realized that there would have been a time for me to search for other things, I could have maybe surrendered into motherhood differently.
Yeah, that where I kind of want to go with this is in a direction that is challenging to think of, but really important, because to be a human being in the Western world at this point in time, and we've been at this point in time for a few thousand years, comes with a prerequisite that we need to work to make money to be able to buy what it is that we need for survival. And that has created, you know, this modern day machine, the matrix, the systemized way of living, catapulted from the Industrial Revolution, where someone works, therefore someone has to stay home, perhaps. And if you don't stay home, someone has to care for the house, someone has to think who's going to cook, who's going to clean, who's going to do all of that. But ultimately, one person has to work and one person stays home, takes care of the home and takes care of the children. There are varying degrees of that reality. Both people work, and then someone else takes care of the children. Both people work, someone else takes care of the home. There's so many different ways, because ultimately we're in a situation in the civilization of humanity where we have to go to work, so much so that it has become our identity. What do you do for work? And then we've put status on that. Well, you're a lawyer. Oh, you must be very clever, or you must be worth a lot of money, or you must be more intelligent than the person who is managing the checkout in the supermarket. We've got all of these degrees that we put this value on ourselves because we have to go to work, or we think we have to, or we've been conditioned, or we don't even believe there's any other alternative. But could we just imagine for a moment what would happen to the expression of a man in his life and the expression of a woman in her life if the need to go to work to make money to survive wasn't the prerequisite for life? like it's so far removed from our reality to be able to think like that. Some people get it. Some people do live their lives like that, and they find contentment in what it is that they do. We can generalize by saying the masculine generally tends to like to work hard, to do things that are suited for the masculine, and women generally do tend to like to do things that are suited for the feminine. And then you'll have the gender roles that will be reversed, and you'll have a woman that is particularly more masculine. She prefer to do things. But if we were actually to give the human being autonomy, where they were free from this predisposed concept that you have to spend X amount of hours in a day to generate your survival, what on earth would we do with our time? And wouldn't that be just magic to be able to be creative in that way?
Yeah. I think, we've always had to function. We will always have to go and gather.
Yes, but not for 9 hours out of a day.
No, I don't know. I don't know is the answer, because I never did it. But I guess it depends on where you live and what you might have to do. And certain times of the year, potentially, there would be people that did have to go away for that amount of time to gather, to bring back to the community. But I think it's the gathering for, there's a difference between the gathering for what you need and the gathering for greed. And we have just not, we have gone way to the side where we are gathering more than we need. And that's actually what's keeping us trapped. If we were just gathering what we needed, we actually wouldn't have to work the hours that we did. But we're gathering for greed. We're gathering to pay for things far beyond that, which is actually necessary. And the hard thing is to actually come back is to take a step back and realize what's necessary. And that's very hard, because keeping up with the Joneses is a big important part of life. And so that's it. And I think I don't think that I think one of the first things is to recognize the needs, and that's kind of been, we've even managed to make that a business. That's the business of simplicity. As a whole, this is what fascinates me, really, how we, that's it. I was thinking, it's the same as, you can become a gardener, but that's become a whole industry. It's like everything that we've got has been monetized to a certain degree, which is great, that we can find out about all these things, but we're losing touch with the actual nitty-gritty of what it is that is actually important. And I think one of the things I just feel is that there's no right, it's not like we can solve these problems or give anyone really big solutions to them. But I do feel that the recognition of how we're feeling, or asking, am I satisfied, and what does that mean for me? The number of people that are just tired, the number of people that feel that they're not rested well, including, to a certain degree, I can say that of myself, that the aspects of doing more than you actually have the capacity to do comes from still not actually being truthful. And I think if we could all get to this place of both radical truthfulness and radical gratitude, we would start to embody this time and time again. And I only believe we can get there by being able to sit authentically in spaces where we are afforded the permission to do that. And that's rare. And I think the more you are honest, the more you can infuse that into all areas of your life. I definitely see that myself. But it does take a lot to show up authentically everywhere. Yeah. And I don't know, personally, I think I just have been feeling so recently, just personally, so many shifts occurring, and just observing so much more the thoughts that are occurring in my mind, just from a different space, and just the questioning of, why do I persistently have those thoughts? Whose are they? Where did they come from? And do I want to continue to have them? And can I actually be quiet enough to notice them just a bit more? I have to be perfect for today, and nothing has to be perfect. That's a big thing for me. We're so caught up on it. But I just one of the things you said earlier, which I just wanted to touch on, is what we do what I do is I teach from a place of savor. That's the thing. And it's each of us understanding what that means. And that's predominantly what we teach. That's what I was trying to explain this weekend. I can't presume that anyone will want to do this, because it's a big thing to ask, but it's the understanding of that. And it's the understanding that if we could all just learn, for me, if I could have learned to serve my family unconditionally, without feeling that in some way I was missing out, I would have liked that very much. And so all I can do now, because I've missed that little boat, and I did, there were certain times when I look back at it and I think of some of the stories, I definitely was, but I equally can see that there was a longing for something else. And that's what I mean. During my training, my teacher training, I definitely got, I was given the information, but I didn't really take it on. But now I can go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So how can I be present now? How can I show up now? And what does that look like? And if I can't show up, all the time here in that way, how can I show up for others that can help them to find that for themselves? It's really big. And then not do that. See that. That's a big thing for me. How can I and sometimes I think that just actually comes with just for having the time to sit together without time constraint, and not always I don't have the solutions for everything.
No. Well, we touched on this yesterday. We don't have the solution for anybody else, because every woman has her own rhythm. She has her own cycle. She has her own connection to her environment, whether she's aware of it or not. And the power of, I guess, we teach in a circle space. My husband's out there. I'm not sure you can start shouting down the phone. But we teach in the space of circle, in that we're not up here as the almighty wisdom keeper. We are just like every other woman or every other person in the space with us in our class. And because that they're, you can't be anything else. But to not proclaim to know what the answer is, because we're all on a journey of discovery, and we're all on a journey of self-discovery. And to be able to have that opportunity where you can come and sit with one other person or a couple of other people and just say what's on your mind or say what's on your heart right now, and just be held in that. And what you might say might be just not relevant after you've said it. But unless you get a chance to say it, it will continue to try to be relevant for you, or it might be very relevant, and therefore someone else might learn something from it. But, to be able to share without judgment is, we're getting there. Women are definitely getting there. I mean, my God, every second marketing thing I see on my newsfeed at the moment is about how to hold women's circles, and that's amazing. And but it doesn't need to be a women's circle for you to have that experience of sitting in a circle with women, because the only prerequisite of women's circle is your capacity to listen and let someone speak and share without judgment. That's it.
Mm. Yeah. And I just was thinking as you're talking, yesterday I got to do this blessing way at Vera Women's Wellness. And it was when I was there, when I arrived, so a blessing way, which is there's a lady that's going to be having a baby soon. And so Peter asked if I would hold a blessing way for her. So this is in the lunch hour of a busy doctor's surgery. And when I arrived, we started, I met one of the ladies that works on the reception desk, and another lady that helps to run events. And we were started gathering cushions and blankets and things to make this beautiful space underneath the tree. And then one of them said, I just can't believe we get to do this at work. And then someone said, can you believe, how lucky are we to work here? And we carried on. I was, just listening, and we carried on. We did some processes during the blessing way, and one was to go around and just gaze at each other and just take a moment with each other. And I was when I was with Peter, I just said, it's just amazing that you have, I think she might have said something like, I said, it's just amazing you've made this available to people here, that they can actually work here and experience yoga and experience, this. And she said, I can't quite believe I've managed to do this. I feel, but, she felt blessed that she had managed to create this. But it's this, we can actually create what we want. We think that we can't. We think we can't possibly do things because they are seen as too crazy, or they won't work, or they won't, be. We can actually run our businesses the way we want to run them. We can actually do things in a different way. You can actually, make your work something that doesn't even seem like work, if you hold that energy for it. And there can be, and this is what I really experienced yesterday, there can be these moments that when I don't even know what magic creates it, but when I sit in somewhere, like when I go to Vera, I just think, wow, how have all these women managed to come to this place together and just and make this happen in this way, and all feel so incredibly blessed that they're having this experience. And I feel like that's just this, that's where I was getting to. That is about the state of your consciousness. This has been really powerful for me. I've had a real kind of wake up around the concept of manifestation. And it came from an amazing podcast that I listened to with Russell Brand, which made it quite good. And but also Michael Singer. It's this idea, and this is where I love it. I love when science backs up what we believe. I don't actually need it, but I do love it when it actually supports stuff in this way. But anyway, I'm not going to go into all the quantum physics because I'm not brilliant at that stuff. But effectively, what he was explaining is that consciousness comes before matter. So, and this goes back to my whole thing about the doing, not the being. So consciousness comes before matter, which means that it is the consciousness, both individually and collectively, that is creating the matter that we are experiencing. So in order for us to experience collective change, we actually need to get to a place where we can start to have a concept of our consciousness. Now in yoga, we see that as using meditation to be able to observe the thought before the thought has even been seeded. So in order to get to that state, we actually have to come back. Well, in Kundalini Yoga, we say this is a state of shunya, of stillness, of silence, of this movement from the duality to the singular neutral way of thinking. But it's even before that. And the weekend we were talking about this, Sam was saying, this is what, our Aboriginal elders have told us, that when they used to be just here with the land, they would predominantly sit in that dream state, the dream, this dream state. And then as the land became populated by the white people, things were given that had to be done. And then they had to start doing things. And so actually, to get back to the place of realizing our consciousness, we have to come back to that dream state then, because at the moment, even those of us that think we are, doing well with our meditation and stuff like that, the seeds are still creating matter. So we might want, have this big, ideas around manifestation and what we think we can create, and we can have it all and we can experience this. But in it, yes, you can be thinking Lamborghini, 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 Lamborghini. But in your brain, or whatever, your consciousness is seeding, you'll never be able to have a Lamborghini because you're not good enough. That's the matter that's occurring. And so and I just find, to me, that's just, it's not new. It's not like a blow it out, but it's actually thinking, like consciousness creates matter. And we are a massive, it's one thing for us individually to work on that consciousness, but this is a collective consciousness. And if we are going to, as we do talk about the universal chitta and all that we put into that universal chitta, which will be the thoughts we say out loud plus the thoughts we're thinking or just even seeding, we have to find a way of getting above the chitta. I find that just, I don't know. It's a really, and sure, some of us are at stages of life where being able to get, beyond just even, we're just trying to survive. But I think understanding that the seed of the thought is impacting our experience in life. And that's what I meant about, if you have enough consciousness in you and you can keep working on that belief, which will only ever come from really getting a connection to your yearning that comes from the soul, which has been given this body glove to experience this lifetime, then you can actually go right and start to achieve that, which is your, I don't know, in yoga, we call it your dharma. But
yeah, well, I mean, I have a sense that this is one of the more profound awakenings that is starting to occur off the back of the last 2 and a bit years, where people are waking up going, this is not the life that I want. They were given a glimpse and now they're like, no. And there is we are co-creators, and there has been a huge shift through the mindfulness movement that is creating this awakening that we have to be co-creators, every single one of us on this planet, for us to see the survival of the human race, or we're going to see more illness, we're going to see more despair, we're going to see more war, all of that. We don't want that. We want to awaken enough people to be able to start to hold this collective awareness and desire for harmony within the human race, for harmony within our lives, for harmony within nature, for harmony between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. whenever you go to bed, to have a joyful experience in that day, to feel accomplished. I think it would be so interesting to map this, because I have an analytical mind, but I really do see such a huge shift from the lower triangle of existence. So the collective, well, anyway, if you look at what are we at? 26 million, 27 million people in Australia. It would be interesting to know on a spiritual scale, how many of those people are living in survival unconsciously, just going through their lives. How many people are really wanting to work on coming up into the heart space and live a heart-centered, co-creative life? Because as a species, as a collective, I feel that is what is needed for not only a survival of the human race, but so that we can live in happiness and harmony with each other. There will always be bad things. There will always be war or whatever on the planet. But, we've coined this phrase, I think it was you, Sam, when 80% of the world are meditating, we will all be free. That is because we will be free from the shackles of our mind. We will be free in that sense of having sovereignty over our thoughts, rather than those thoughts be there running behind the scenes going, you're not good enough. You don't deserve that. You don't want that.
Well, the point is that the lower triangle is unstable. So the lower triangle will always go in and out of being stable. And that's really important to understand, because that means that we don't actually have to fix the lower triangle, but we will consistently need to work on it. We need to consistently remind ourselves how we can feel safe and secure. And this is incredibly challenging if you are facing a situation that means that that's not real for you. And if you are in trauma, or if you are in danger, then that's when we become completely, it drops out. But so the lower triangle will always flick, and as a world, depending on what comes in, what comes out, we will flick between feeling secure, feeling stable, and not being. The key is, and exactly what you're saying is, we must always cultivate the heart chakra. So we don't have to wait for the lower triangle to be ready. We want to always try and live through the heart chakra. And so if we are connecting heart to heart with another by being honest and being truthful and being vulnerable and being open, then that's where that expansiveness will come from. And that's where the magic comes from. If I'm not talking to you from a place of thinking you have something that I want, which becomes that lower energy. If we can actually see that you having it means that I can have it too, or it is part of my experience too, we can drop out of that. But it's such a massive mindset for us, because we've been taught to be the enemies of each other. That if one person is successful, it means that we are not, rather than seeing that the success of another is the success of ourselves. And this is, exactly the teachings, around wealth and the distribution of wealth and what it means to be wealthy. But yeah, I think it's fascinating. And I think proportionately people are waking up to one. Well, I don't know. I still don't know. If the teachings are true, then it's only 10% of the world. So it's still quite a long way to go. And I don't know what that means. But I also would never want to presume that anyone wasn't. So it's not my place to do that, because, there are times when I'm absolutely functioning from my heart chakra, and then I'm absolutely categorically not. So, and that's the humanness of this whole thing. And we are here to have a human experience. And so that does mean that we're going to experience all that this earthly plane can have for us. I think, it's amazing stuff. The other day I was talking about, that beautiful, I hope you can find it actually and stick it up, because it'd be really nice. That meme that was going around with all the planets, and it had all the sizing of the planets, and just how insignificant we are. And this is the stuff that I just go, yeah, that's it. I was saying, like, we're like the piece of dust you can't see between my bits of carpet. That's Earth. That's Earth. And then we're even smaller on Earth. And we've made ourselves so freaking important. Like, I am so important. You know, I need to have a car. I need to have a house. I need to do this.
My house isn't big enough. Getting a bigger house.
It's just, we're so, do you know what I mean? We're wasting our time on all this stuff, but actually we're that insignificant. And that just blows my mind, because wow, once we begin to comprehend even more of that, if we ever do, which may never happen in our lifetime, but I think that, and I don't know if it was actually Michael Singer who said that, but it's when you start to, or not, he wasn't saying that, but he was talking about this concept, but that's when you start to really get a grip of God. Like, who, like, we can't even comprehend it.
No.
We can't even those, you know, amazing scientists can't comprehend it. And so, yeah, within that, we may as well just enjoy some of the worldly pleasures, which actually are not clothes and I'm trying to look what I've got in here, that, you know, and essential oils and picture frames, or do you know what I mean? It's just not about that. Plant pots, or how many cuttings you can stick in glass vases, which is, you know, current new thing. It's just not about that. It's about, can you actually look outside and just go, wow, and have a wow? Because when you have a wow in the morning, when I get up some mornings and I look at the stars and that alignment that's there at the moment and the moon, I like have full, like I want to go wake people up.
That's it. That there is so much energy in that awe moment. That awe experience is I think I was reading recently, is unique to the human being.
Well, it
just like language is unique to the speech language. Anyway, fascinating.
I mean, and that's just it. So that's, you know, I don't know. I feel like that's one of my big things, getting up early enough to see the stars in the morning sky, and then to watch the first glimmer of a sunrise is the most awe-inspiring thing, and brings you to a state.
Oh, I just got shivers.
I can't get anywhere else. It's why I make myself so tired and get up in the morning, because that you can't get it at any other point. The quietness and the stillness and the capacity. It's so emotional. This morning I was just overrun with emotion. There was not even a journey to it. There was just and I think it was brought up because there was a card that was talking about, it was just beautiful. I will read it and then maybe we can, but it was just the most beautiful line that just made me just feel, here it is. It says, we've forgotten that we don't exist in nature. We are nature. And it's so simple. And yet I read this and I literally was just moved. I can even feel it in me. I was moved to a state. It's like, yeah, we're not separate to this. We are connected to the seasons, to the sun, to the earth, to the stars, and not to the things.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, that's just right now where I'm at in it. I don't even, it's a funny, but I just think if we can remember that daily, we probably won't need as much, which means we won't have to do as much.
Completely. Yes to that.
It should be nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's lovely. We might leave that there for today. How good.
Yay.
Well, here we are back in the podcast space. This is nice. I think we'll plan to do if it evolves with grace and ease, like we hope to be able to deliver a podcast regularly from here on.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Be really nice. So if anyone who's listened, you've followed us all the way to this point in the podcast today, or whenever it is that you're listening to this, we also would like to invite you to send anything you'd like us to chat about, or any questions you might have that we might be able to just, give you our thoughts on. We would love
Yes.
to hear from you.
It would be lovely.
So nice to spend this time with you this morning, Sam.
Yes, lovely to be here with you.
Okay. Sat Nam.
Sat Nam.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us on this podcast episode. These are sound bites and conversations about things we think are important to support the collective ascension towards more love, acceptance, hope, and harmony on the planet Earth. Together we can continue to support each other through conversations that need to be held. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your people. We would love it if you subscribe to our channel and even rate the podcast if you feel called to. You can also find us and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube and Spotify just by searching the 13 Moons Women's Temple.